Welcome your host, Caddy Frink, as she leads discussions about substance use disorder and the journey to recovery. You're listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution.
Gotta wait till that magic moment in the music right there.
Yes.
So, hello out there in Radio Land. This is Caddy Frink at Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. Fulfilling my dreams. We're brought here by Minnesota Recovery Connection. Across the table from me is whom?
Rachel.
Rachel. So we're going to be talking to Rachel and myself. We're going to discuss some stuff about advocacy. But first and foremost, I want to always say a special thanks to our volunteers. Lately, we have had an enormous amount of volunteering coming into Minnesota Recovery Connection, and we literally can't survive without it. Would you agree, Rachel?
Facts.
Facts.
Yes.
It's just been so amazing lately,
Yes.
so thank you. But we also have some funders. Some of these funders have sunsetted here at Minnesota Recovery Connection, but I always want to give props where props are due, and that is the Patrick and Amy Butler Foundation, Otto Bremer Trust, the Sauer Family Foundation. Not all of them have sunsetted, but just saying. The Hardenberg Foundation, alongside some of the private donations we get, which we're always happy to take. Corporate donations, always happy to take. Volunteers, always happy to bring into our family. And just anybody out there who is just looking to see if they've got a good cause that they want to help, we're always willing to fill those coffers with whatever you got. If it's your human time, that's great. And if it's your money, we will happily take that as well. So, Rachel, what's right with you today, my dear?
Well, first of all, it's Friday. My son...
Even though it's going to show on
Yes.
Saturday. So.
Yes. So my son has a football tournament this weekend, and we are getting a hotel room, and we are just going to have a blast. So,
Where is this all taking place?
up in Rogers.
Rogers. Okay,
Yep.
so not far out of
Yeah.
town, but just...
A little staycation.
Yeah, a little staycation,
Yeah.
just far enough away to feel like you're not
Yes.
quite at home.
A little swimming, a little water park at the hotel.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
So what is right with you, Caddy?
Well, since you did admit it's Friday, but of course it's Saturday to all of you listening.
yes.
Let's see. Happy that it is time for a weekend. It is a strange time of year where it's a little warm, a little cold. But, there's some events going on in the country this weekend that I'm very excited about personally. And since we are on a progressive radio station, many of you know what I'm talking about, but we won't get political, but we are going to be present for that. And then I think I actually might be able to get outside and do a little chipping in my garden to kind of protect some plants and stuff.
Okay.
Next week, I think the ferns are coming in, Rachel.
Oh, the ferns.
The
Yes,
ferns,
I know all
the
about the ferns.
Yes.
Got to make room for the ferns.
Got to make room for the ferns. So just side note, I have a lot of ferns that I winter in our office.
Ginormous ferns.
Well, they're even more ginormouser. So, I kind of tippy-toed around what we're going to talk about today, which is advocacy. And we've had these conversations before, but Rachel has been involved in something that really kind of brought advocacy on several different levels to the front of our face. But let's have you do a quick introduction. Some people have heard you talk before, but who are you and what got you to Minnesota Recovery Connection and what you're doing now?
So my name is Rachel, and I'm a woman in long-term recovery.
Oh, she got that one right.
Yes. I am a recovery navigator at the Minnesota Recovery Connection. I'm working through the AmeriCorps program, so I'm serving my second term now at MRC. Yes. I just came back after my summer break. I've only been back for a few weeks. But, yes, I got into recovery after I had some involvement with the criminal justice type world. I have lived experience with Child Protective Services, and I have been in recovery for 2 years now. So
2 years.
Yeah.
Would you mind mentioning the substance that really sort of consumed you for a while?
Yeah, I would not mind at all. It was methamphetamines. Yeah. Had a deep, deep hold on me.
Yeah. And I asked her to relay that because there's a twist and a turn going on in our substance use disorder world where, we kind of always thought it was, alcohol, or maybe it was cocaine and it was pot and those things. And they are definitely, alcohol is the largest largest substance that is consumed in our world, not just our state.
Wow.
It's legal, and see
Right.
that just sort of gives it a whole lot more possibilities, shall we say?
Right.
But meth is like on the top couple, and it's because of its cost and a lot of different things. And people, it was interesting. There was somebody that came in for an interview and said, she said, I was taking a class, and she said, I thought I could just like take a class and do meth at the same time. And I said, how'd that work for you? She goes, it didn't really work out very well.
I can relate to that statement on so many levels. There were so many times in my addiction where I would try to get a job, and try to, be a normie.
Mm-hmm.
But, it would literally only last like 2 days maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you think you'll be more awake and
Yeah.
more stimulated,
Yeah.
and so you think you can just handle it. And
You can do anything.
Yeah.
and you can't.
You can't.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it can then controls you.
Yep.
And I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand who might be affected by or involved with people who are struggling with substance use disorder, that it's more than just a choice I'm going to choose to use. Once you get these things in your system, if I'm correct, Rachel, it then takes over because your body you can't go without unless you feel like a piece OS about it.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, and so it just literally rules your life.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, when Rachel came to Minnesota Recovery Connection as a recovery navigator, okay, tell them the story you just told me when we were waiting to come in here. It's so cute. It's so cute.
So when I first started last year, I was so nervous and so scared. And, we have phones at all of our desks and all our cubicles, and the phones were ringing off the hook. And I was so scared to answer the phone. I literally unplugged the back of my phone. And then the other navigator that was working in front of me was like, Rachel, can't you hear the phone ringing? Like, pick it up. And I was like, I don't think it's working.
And the reason why I want you is sort of out yourself a little bit. But what's so interesting is that you are so far beyond that now.
I know. Thank you.
You can answer the phone and you can drop some bombs of wisdom on just about anybody. She had a person in the office today who was really kind of on a struggle bus, and she held her own and held her, you needed to take a deep breath after working with this individual because sometimes we're complicated, huh, Rachel?
Yes.
For
sure.
For sure. So I was saying to Rachel how proud I am of her. I'm kind of her work mom. She calls me, yes, mom. But it's out of respect. She respects me and I respect her.
Yes, for sure.
And what I've seen is an incredible growth in a woman who desired her recovery, who wanted to do something for the community. She's going to start to cry now.
I know.
But it's so wonderful to see the growth.
Thank
and
you.
I want, so we were putting together this conversation today. She's like, well, Caddy, what do I say? What are we going to talk about? What is this? I'm talking a mile a minute. I'm like, okay, actually, you just came up with a topic today. And she's like, I did? And I said, yeah, you did.
You did. You did that.
So we're going to talk about advocacy. Rachel had an experience with the housing community that has kind of taken a little bit of heat. But we're going to talk about that from a community standpoint. And then we're going to talk about advocacy from the self-advocacy standpoint, because really it was the advocacy that Rachel did for herself, which then brought into light some community, we'll call it adversities that took place. And we are not here to cast shame on anyone. We're not here to point fingers at anyone. But what we have to always remember is that people that struggle either with mental health or struggle with substance use disorder or struggle without living in a home, there's a lot underneath that. It's not just those top issues. There's so many different factors.
It's like an onion. You got to peel it back.
Yeah. And there's that inside, which is really the hardest place to get to. But that's where I think we can agree, that's where the trauma lies. And we build these walls and these layers around us so we don't feel that. So we're going to come back and kind of unpack this whole conversation. I feel like I'm like talking like radio speak all of a sudden, like we're sunsetted something and we're going to unpack something.
Yes.
I'm a little bit.
I like it.
I'm a little bit weirder than all that. So thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, Recovery Revolution here on AM 950, the progressive radio station. And Rachel and I will come back. So catch you on the other side, folks. All righty.
And this house needs love in it, 'cause without it there's no home. And there's one thing that I've learned through this year of being alone.
moving in there. Everybody do a little swish from side to side. That happy music. Welcome back to Redefining Recovery, a Recovery Revolution here on AM 950. I'm with whom?
Rachel.
Rachel, from where?
Minnesota Recovery Connection.
And what do you do there?
I am a recovery navigator.
Which is a?
I don't do billable services, so I help anybody for free. I help them figure out what their recovery looks like for them.
So you are technically what I train, which is a peer recovery specialist.
Well, I do have I am certified. I am a certified CPRS, but in my role at MRC, I am a recovery navigator.
Right.
So no billable.
No billable. And we always have to tippy-toe around how we define that. But really what it means is that Rachel can deliver services to literally anyone.
Yes.
And that is what we do at Minnesota Recovery Connection. We are there to serve the community, serve the public, give them education, give them advocacy, which we're going to talk about, and educate them. And that's what, to me, that's what this entire program is about. It's about giving people some nuggets to chew on here and there. You might not all be familiar. We're going to try to break down the acronyms because we toss them out all the time.
Well, it's just a part of our language.
I know. It's like, oh, Caddy, not everybody knows what RCO is.
Right, or MRC.
Yeah, or MRC. Yeah, so we have to be very careful. So the reason why we're taking this conversation is that Rachel, I thought, let's have Rachel come on the show today. What should we talk about? And Rachel has just been a big part of a situation that happened in Minnesota that is actually under investigation by Department of Health and Human Services in Minnesota. And it has to do with housing. And so there's two components to this. There's Rachel's self-advocacy, and then there is what we're going to talk about on the other side of her story is the community impact when it comes to advocacy as well. So why don't you give a small story about what we're talking about here? What happened?
So basically, for everybody when they leave treatment, they have to secure housing, whether that's temporary or permanent. I was in the process of getting my son back, custody of him, because I had a child protective services case.
Right.
So I was looking for permanent housing. And at that point in my life, I was reaching out to any organization possible trying to get this because with my background, it was very difficult for me to find housing.
So let me preface, when somebody has a background that is what we call justice impacted, so you might have some misdemeanors, some gross misdemeanors, maybe some felonies, there's a lot of places that kind of put up the old stop sign on you, like, we don't want you because you could be a bad human. So you have to kind of really dig deep, right?
Really, really dig deep.
Yeah.
So it took me about 5 months. I had to stay in treatment for an extra 5 months because I didn't have housing.
Because you had no place to go.
No place to go.
And sometimes people get to go to their families or go to partners or something like that. But then in Rachel's case, that wasn't the case. There was no other option. She needed to find a place to lay her head.
Yep. So I had signed up for a housing stabilization service provider. And essentially, I did not receive any services. I ended up securing housing all on my own. I did did the whole move, got everything done by myself. I then started my term at Minnesota Recovery Connection, and I began to build my caseload and take on participants. And I kept hearing the same story over and over again from the people that I was supporting, which was they were signing up for a housing stabilization service, and they essentially were not getting the services.
Right.
Through that motivated me to get a hold of my own insurance records. And I went through them, and what I found was shocking. I had been being billed for two separate providers, for thousands of dollars, and I had not received any services. So I did what I thought I was supposed to do. I contacted DHS. I contacted my insurance company to appeal the claims, and I did not hear anything back from anybody. And, that kind of angered me a little bit. So
not a little bit. It kind of angered you a lot.
Anybody who knows me knows I was ranting and raving about this for months and months.
Well, and I think what I want to point out to people who are listening, and that is this takes an extra deep dive. But I think because Rachel was working in an environment where when you hear a story over and over again about people not getting the help that they are supposed to be getting, all of a sudden those little red flags kept popping up, right? And that's what drove you to like do your own investigation,
Yep.
your own self-advocacy.
And I think being at Minnesota Recovery Connection and working there and having that plethora of resources just right at my grasp and being able to network and talk to other people and figure out, hey, you know what, this isn't right. That's not how this is supposed to go. I don't know if I would have gone down the path that I went if I hadn't been working at Minnesota Recovery Connection. It really just fostered the environment for me to keep going further.
Yeah, kind of like what would be? I remember you came to me a couple of times like, Caddy, something's not feeling right. And
Yep.
you just ran, and she wasn't exactly disclosing everything all the time. And I
Give
think
you little snippets.
yeah, because I think we get afraid because it's like if I'm going to use the term blow the whistle on something, what is going to be the repercussion? And
Right.
I kind of cautioned Rachel in the beginning that sometimes when you bring something to the surface, there can be a counteraction.
There's going to
It
be
can
some things.
Yeah. So continue on, please.
So, like you just said, along the journey of the few people that knew about it, a few of them were like, hey, slow down, sister. You don't know what you're doing. You might be blowing the lid off something big. You might want to be careful.
Right.
And then I had other people that were like,
burn
it down.
Yeah, burn. Take it on. Do it,
Yep.
girl.
So I waited a few months. I never heard back from the insurance, DHS. So I ended up contacting AJ from Care 11, and through what I was telling him, he began investigating. And later on down the road, the FBI ended up getting involved. There's been indictments, search warrants. But through all of that, they decided to completely shut down the housing support or housing stabilization program. Mm-hmm. And through that, I think a lot of people keep talking about, how do I say this? People being victims, but I think people are forgetting about the real people that were real victims in this. There's people that are on-house community members that are outside right now that signed up for this service and thought housing help was coming, and it never came.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
And I think that's why we want to kind of, there's plenty of stories. I mean, there are people doing fraudulent behavior in every industry and every business
Exactly.
all around this country all the time. And we're not going to we're not going to talk about that because that goes in somebody else's hands. That goes
Yep.
in the FBI, that's DHS,
Yep.
that's our, our state government. They're going to take the movement on that. What Rachel and I came to, and actually Rachel came to this and she had to be reminded, is that when an entity doesn't deliver the services that they promise, there's that person. There's
Yes.
that community member that is having these hopes and these dreams and these aspirations, and they're thinking about getting a possibility of a bed to put their head in rather than sit, in a tent behind a tree or behind a building. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to say, those are the people that struggle.
Yeah, I really want to highlight the fact that I am one of the lucky ones.
Very lucky, yeah.
Very lucky. I was able to find my own housing. And when I spoke at the state capitol, I made sure that I emphasized that point because you see me, I have a job, I have a place to live, I have a car, I have a place, I have everything I need in my daily life. But I am one of the lucky ones. There are people out there that are not as lucky as me, and that is who I wanted to advocate for. That was my main mission in all of this.
Yeah, it wasn't about blowing somebody up on the other side.
No.
Because that'll take care of itself.
Yes.
But it is the people that were looking for the support and looking for the help. And I don't think there is a person anywhere within the listening space out there in whatever state or even what country, because sometimes some people outside the country listen to this show, have not seen somebody who's got a sign on the street or seen a tent or seen somebody who's walking through a mall or at a grocery store who looks a little disheveled. Those are the people we're talking about, that they have asked for services and sometimes it doesn't happen.
Yep.
And sometimes somebody does something really bad.
Yep.
And then there is a victim. There is consequences to that.
Yeah.
And so Rachel has put together some really good information about some of the services that she has been fortunate enough to benefit from, but maybe there's somebody listening who knows themselves, who has had the opportunity to hear this show, that might be looking for some services, or there's somebody who knows somebody who's struggling and maybe they don't exactly know how to help them. And that's one of the things that I think I always want to stress when I'm doing this program and coming from my absolute heart is that somebody knows somebody who's struggling in one way or another. If it's with substances or with it's a lack of their resources, they're feeling that they don't have what they need. So Rachel's going to talk a little bit about the housing support and what those services look like. She's looking at me like I've just asked her to walk down the street with balloons on her head. But I want you to talk about some of the housing resources because that's kind of what broke this whole thing open.
Yes.
And then we're going to talk about some food resources and we're going to talk about some mental health resources because there are people out there that are struggling, that they don't know where to go. And we're going to give you just some high level spaces, but sometimes just making a phone call, which Rachel, you've helped somebody make that phone call and it opens up, right?
Yep. But that's all about advocating for yourself. As you get the information, now what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's why what we have at Minnesota Recovery Connection is an individual like Rachel or Josie or our intern Eddie or Lorraine or Alicia, myself included, where somebody calls and says, I just need a little bit of support on how to do this. And we're like, yeah, come on.
Right.
Yeah, let's do this. We got numbers. We'll just sit next to you and help you make the phone call.
Yep.
And just give you that encouragement because boy, it's hard to come out of a place where you've judged yourself, been judged, you've got shame, you've got fear, you've got all these negative things that are just sort of imprinted on you. And then you say, hey, and how about finding a house?
Well, I like to think of housing as like the final boss in like the video game, you get, you get out of treatment and now it's like,
right.
Housing.
Yeah. It's like, scared. So why don't you talk a little bit about what housing resources looks like? What does that sound like?
So these are just some programs, and I just want to emphasize that each one of these programs or organizations is going to have their own requirements that you would have to, find out if you meet. But I'm sure if you looked these places up and gave them a call and you didn't meet their requirements, they could probably refer you out to somebody else.
Because a lot of organizations, maybe you don't fulfill the requirements
Right.
that they have. They're like, oh, okay, but I know blah,
I know
blah,
of
blah,
this
blah,
place.
blah. And that's the beautiful thing about the work that we do, and that is sometimes Minnesota Recovery Connection can't help you with exactly what you need, but we know the next thing that might get you a little bit closer.
Exactly.
But that makes somebody a little uncomfortable because then they got to make another phone call. And we know.
Well, just call me and I'll help you make the phone
there
call.
you go. Call Rachel at Minnesota Recovery Connection. Anyway, keep going, my friend.
Okay, so we have the ARC, Minnesota. They have a crisis housing program. The Salvation Army, they offer navigation, advocacy, and rent support. The Wilder Foundation has supportive housing services. Cross Services, they have a program called the Peace of Mind Financial Services. And then I also want to encourage anybody who's looking for resources, sometimes just reach out to your local churches because they oftentimes have programs within their own
communities.
Church. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And I think thank you. I'm really glad you said that because I think that's really important because a lot of times you don't have to be a member of a church to receive community service from them because that is what a lot of these spaces and places, they're there to help community.
Yep.
And a lot of their volunteers and a lot of their work that they have to do to receive the funding and what their community wants them to do.
Yep.
That's a really good reminder to go to those local places and at the very least, ask for help. And if they don't know, chances are they at least know one other space or place.
Right.
That's a really good point. Thanks.
So then we have the coordinated entry system of Minnesota.
Now, what the heck is that?
I was trying to come up with the best definition, and the language on there is a little bit intimidating. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to sum it up the best I can right here. Okay.
Rachel's abbreviation.
Yes. It's a system that Minnesota uses to streamline access to housing services by using a comprehensive assessment that can prioritize the severity of each person's barriers to housing and ensure each person's needs are documented within the county. And then referrals are coordinated from that assessment.
So when you say what did you call it?
The coordinated entry.
Coordinated entry. No, the assessment though.
It's a comprehensive
assessment. Now, a comprehensive assessment. Boy, easy for me to say. That generally has to do with substance use disorder.
Yep.
As well as, does it bring any kind of mental health?
Yes, I'm sure it's like like an umbrella type. Well, that's what I think of when I think of that.
Of assessment.
Yep.
So if anybody is ever interested in helping somebody who's struggling, who needs to get some additional care, an assessment is easier to find than you think, because there's a couple of organizations out there.
No, I usually use Kai-Shin.
Kai-Shin
has really gotten that system down.
Okay.
You can go right online and book it.
What is Kai-Shin?
Kai-Shin is an addiction medicine clinic. I know they have one in St. Paul, and I want to say Bloomington.
Okay.
They have an intensive outpatient program for substance use disorder. They have a primary clinic.
Okay.
Where let's say you had strep throat, you could do a walk-in. You can get counseling, therapy, any type of medication. So like when I was going through treatment, that's where I went to get on all of my, what's the word I'm looking for? Mental health medication.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So Kai-Shin has got available comprehensive assessments. Yep. And that's like one of like the basic things to help somebody get into, shall we say, the system, right?
Yeah, they're very low barrier, very easy to access.
Yeah.
Yep.
And somebody needs this kind of assessment before they can really kind of get rolling on getting some supplemental care, getting some resources through either the state or maybe your insurance and all those different things.
Yep.
Because somebody's got to evaluate where somebody is at so that they can determine what our next steps. And we even do that with our participants. We get a comprehensive assessment with our billable services. Generally speaking, we can get them with the navigators as well. But it really is about where's somebody at?
Yeah.
And it just kind of helps kind of set a bar somewhere. The bar might be lower, it might be higher. You might have to step into something. But it's really about it gives somebody something to the helper something to work with.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like maybe today, somebody comes in and they really don't have any paperwork, they have nothing, and they really need to have an assessment so that Rachel knows what direction to go in to help them. Do they need to be inpatient treatment? Do they need to be in treatment? What is it that they're looking for?
Yeah, it's really a starting point. Yeah.
Oh, very nice, very nice. So we have that.
The coordinated entry that I was just talking about, the way to access that, so there's like 9 different, it's broken down into regions.
Okay.
So the best way to figure out what number for you to call is to actually dial 211. Yes, for United Way, and they will just put you all the way together.
Yeah, and it's so interesting now that we have 311, that's for city services. We've got 911, of course, we always know. Then we have now 211, which is United Way, which is just, we all have heard of United Way. And if at the very least you take away from this conversation that you're listening to, you are seeing somebody who is disheveled and unsure of what to do. Maybe it's just like, hey, let's call 211 and figure out where we go.
Yeah, because 211 is really a great way to find resources in your area. They housing, domestic violence, food, mental health, substance use disorder, legal services, employment, healthcare, even winter clothes.
Yeah.
So, just really whatever that it is that need is, I would encourage anybody to just dial 211 and see what you have in your area.
Yeah. And then, where Minnesota Recovery Connection comes in, we're one of their resources.
Right.
So when somebody struggles with substance use disorder, we're on their list to say, hey, there's this great nonprofit organization that can deliver free services. And Rachel might be the person who actually now answers the phone.
Yes, I want to, note that I do answer the phone now.
Because that confidence has certainly built up.
Quite frequently.
Yes. And then, there's the mental health resources. And then there's another 3-digit number that is now very important for everyone to know, which is
988.
And what is that?
That is the Suicide and Crisis Hotline.
And I know I go through my trainings with individuals and I say, we all kind of know the suicide hotline. I use that in air quotes.
Yep.
But I said, that's like a 1-800 blah, 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 blah. I say, now we've simplified it. And I get these big eyes looking at me like, what is that? And I'm like, 988. And it is kind of all those. It's a crisis line, and then it can be the suicidal ideations hotline too. So it really is like that immediate step for help, because if you call 911 for somebody who might be in crisis, that's unsure of how it's going to turn out.
Sometimes
And people who have struggled in the past would be very reluctant to call 911 because you don't necessarily want the popo coming towards you, even though they probably could help you, but you might be better off calling 988 and having somebody who's really compassionate, who can say, I'm hearing what you're saying.
More trauma-informed.
Yeah, and thank you, trauma-informed, and be able to help you to what your next step is, because the police that's not exactly what they're trained for.
Right.
We got good folks, we got bad folks, just like we got good businesses, we got bad businesses. But what we're trying to do is give you those advocacy pieces so that you can get the help that you need. The next one we want to talk about, and I think we're in a space where a lot of people might need resources around this wherever you are in the world, not necessarily living without a home, not necessarily struggling with substance use disorder or mental health. And they are what, Rachel?
So these are low barrier food shelves. One in St. Paul is the Keystone Community Services. In Minneapolis, the Community Bridge Food Shelf. Anoka, the ACBC Food Shelf, and in Burnsville, we have the Prince of Peace Church. But I also have another website. It's called hungersolutions.org, and you can basically go on there and put your zip code in, and it's going to show you every food shelf that's right there in like a 5-mile radius of you.
Wow.
Yep.
And here again is where we can go back to community-based too, because there's a lot of like churches or maybe your synagogue or maybe your mosque or places. I'm sort of speaking in generalities. I don't know if that's actually true. Non-religious organizations as well, that they have a specific day where they have a meal available, or they have a specific time frame where they have actual food resources available. And I took a tour of one that's just down the street from Minnesota Recovery Connection on University.
That is Keystone.
Is that Keystone?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
I know.
I mean, you walk in, it kind of looks like a grocery store.
You get to kind of do your own little shopping.
You get a cart.
Yes.
You get to walk through.
Yep.
Depending on the size of the family, you can't grab everything. You can grab a limited amount of number based on how many folks you're serving. But you know we're in a time of uncertainty, and some people might just spend a little bit more money on rent or other costs, and maybe the food budget has gotten a little bit lean.
Yep.
These are places that are available for everybody, and I don't care about your socioeconomic level. I don't care what that looks like.
Yep.
You know, so let's just all remember that it's about community and advocating for community and our neighbors and the people that struggle. The other day, I was listening to something on public radio, and it talked about those who are either more mature or might have a mental or physical disability, and there's a lot of time spent alone.
Yeah.
And I thought, who can I give a call to? So I gave a call, and I know that I can go visit a couple of people because they might just be feeling lonely.
Okay.
And that is about community as well.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe you've made a pot of chili, and you could just say, hey, you know what? I know you live alone. You know,
I got extras.
I got a little extra. You know, let's just have a conversation, 10 minutes, and we'll take your time. Maybe you want to watch The Wheel of Fortune or something, or you might want to watch your British comedy or something. You do you, but I want to bring over a bowl of chili and just say, hey, I care.
Check on your people.
Check on the peeps.
Yes.
You know, there are peeps that are in really desperate situations, and then there are people that are in situations that we don't understand. But sometimes it just means knocking on the door and just saying hi to people. I've just made Rachel just laugh. So this is about community advocacy. Rachel talked about her scenario where she advocated for herself, which then built in the community element to it. When we come back from break, what we're going to talk about is like, what does self-advocacy look like? Because a lot of times people who have been struggling, they are afraid to ask. They don't know what that might look like. And so we're going to kind of break it down. It's one of the learning tools that I have in our class when we talk about advocacy from a community level, a legislative level, a personal level, a worldwide perspective. So this is Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. Who's across from me?
Rachel.
From Minnesota Recovery Connection. She's a navigator. So when we come back, we're going to talk about self-advocacy. Thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, Recovery Revolution. My name is Caddy Frink, your host here on AM 950, the progressive radio station. Thanks for listening.
We've all seen the man at the liquor store begging for your change. The hair on his face.
Well, there's that bouncy music again. Hey, who's giggling across from me?
Rachel from the Minnesota Recovery Connection.
Oh, there she is again. Well, in this last period of time that we have, we're going to talk about self-advocacy because it is for everyone. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that people struggle when they are in their depths of their substance use disorder or just coming out of it or even 24 years into recovery, sometimes speaking up for yourself is hard because I'm like, am I going to interrupt somebody's life? Am I going to ask and they can't do something? You know, do they still like me?
Right. Am I going to make somebody mad?
Yeah. Oh, Lord. Am I going to disappoint somebody if they think I can do what I think I can't do that I don't know if I can do?
Right.
So asking people what you need, because I think one of the important things about asking for help is the other person, if they can offer the help, that makes them feel good too.
Yes, I didn't even think about it like that.
That's what I've been able to turn around in my head. And that is if you come to me and say, hey, Caddy, I remember one of the former employees that we had at Minnesota Recovery Connection, she was just getting settled into a new apartment because she had to break away from a situation. And she had a couple of kids, I believe. And so she had limited towels and like sheets and things. And I'm like, I'm an old bedding hoarder. I have more towels and more sheets. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, I get to lighten up my linen closet.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right. And donate to a good cause.
And give to a human that really needed it. So it made me feel really good.
Right.
She got what she needed, and she realized that it's not that scary to ask because I was so grateful to get rid of stuff, but also to help.
Yes. So the next one is speaking up for yourself.
Seems appropriate, doesn't it?
You know, I'm a firm believer in closed mouths don't get fed. That's what comes to mind there.
Yeah.
And, you know, like what you don't know. So if you need something, you know, sometimes you have to speak up for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, boundaries maybe even too.
Yeah. Sometimes we think there's something in the way. We think there's a barrier and there really isn't a barrier, but we've built one.
Yeah.
Because we've maybe asked while we were not in our best selves and somebody said, no, I can't do that. And I won't and I can't because they're protecting themselves.
Yeah.
But once we finally get ourselves kind of in a better space, we still have that fear that we're going to be interjecting ourselves in somebody's life. So, and also telling other people what you need, you know, be clear. You had made a comment today about, you know, a scenario that happens in the office sometimes. And I'm like, you know what? We need to know what we need to know. And you're like, okay, fine.
Well, I just told you.
I know. But it was helpful because we didn't know that sometimes there's an imposition that happens.
Yeah, because you guys are, you know, I don't want to get into it.
No, we're not going to get it. But we don't know because if we're not in the same space as you or we don't have the same needs.
Same role.
Right.
Yeah.
And so everybody's got like a different space that they hold. What's the next one on the sheet?
Telling others how you feel, or did we just do that one?
We just did that one.
Oh, voicing your concerns.
Hey,
you know?
See? And I think there's a reluctance there as well. Like, if I complain about something, then they're going to look at me and they think that I don't like them or they think that I don't, you know. But when you voice a concern about somebody, and I said this to somebody who was at our front desk a few days ago. It was a volunteer. And he was trying to help a family member who was still struggling with substance use. And I said, you know, a lot of people tell us what we should do all the time and that you got to stop doing this and you're a hot mess. And I said, you know, why don't you just tell them how much you love them?
Yeah.
And then you can say that I'm concerned for you but I can't change it. But I want you to know that I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
And it's and I'm not saying that to make you feel guilty, but I'm just being honest with you. So if you have a concern about someone, let them know, because maybe that might turn on a light.
I also sometimes when like something's bothering me or, I'm concerned, sometimes I like to sleep on it for a little while. And
You're a thinker.
I'm a thinker. Yeah. I like to think it out. And, maybe sometimes I'm thinking about the situation wrong,
Or overthinking it.
Or overthinking it,
But that's common for a lot of people
Yeah.
who have been in troubled situations,
Yeah.
because we get a lot of information about what's right, what's wrong, but then that judgment thing comes in. If I
Yeah.
ask for help, if I voice a concern, how am I going to be perceived?
Yeah.
And what we need to do is say, it's okay. And if you're willing, as the person who's voicing the concern, to hear either constructive conversation, it's
Yeah.
like, I hear what you're saying, and here's why something the way it is, or wow, I didn't know that, so
Right.
thanks for telling me.
Right.
We have to be willing to say that there's a couple of sides on this. What's another? Oh, I'll read another one here. We have a little cheat sheet here, folks, just so you know. Asking for what you want, kind of talked about that. But if you want something or need something, make it known, because if you don't ask, like you said, if you're hungry and you need food and all you're doing is just going to bed hungry, how are you going to get fed?
That's right.
Ask for what you need. Yeah,
Yes.
just sometimes it's hard, but if somebody says no, and here's another thing that I say, somebody might say, no, I can't, but they might say, no, I can't right now.
Right. Right.
Generally, no isn't usually permanent unless it is.
Right.
But sometimes somebody can't do something in the moment, but it's like you said, let me think on it. Let me figure out what the next thing might be.
Sharing your ideas.
Ooh,
that's really good.
Well, that's exactly what you did with the situation that you were in with the housing. You shared with everybody, and you got some feedback.
Some constructive feedback.
Right.
Yeah.
But you shared you voiced your concern.
Yeah.
And then when you actually share an idea of what you want to do with it, then sometimes the solution can come along.
Yeah.
You may not like the solution.
No. But, like that's like a grand thing. Like these things can be just little small
Every
things you
day.
do during the day.
Yeah. When I go home and I see my guy, I'm going to say, you know what? You didn't sleep well last night. I didn't sleep well last night. We'll have a little quick conversation. Then tomorrow morning we'll have our normal Saturday morning conversation.
Planning your own future. I like that one. Goals are very important.
Mm-hmm.
Very important.
Realistically sized goals.
Yes. Smart goals.
Smart goals. But when you have an idea and you want something to play out, a lot of times we have these real lofty goals, like I want to buy a house.
Yep.
Well, have you rented an apartment recently?
Right.
Or I want to get a new car. Do you have your driver's license?
Right.
Sometimes
Very
we have
good
to,
point.
we have to like simplify it, pros and cons, break it down.
Get those small ones out of the way and work up to the big ones.
And you've done that with plenty of people all over the place.
Yes.
Deciding what you want in life.
Yep.
Don't let other people determine what they think you need. And that happens a lot in our world with substance use disorder, where it's like, I know you need to get clean. Know you need to go to treatment. I know what you need to do.
Or you should, people.
Yeah, should the heck out of people. And what this says is that here's what I want to do. Can you help me with what I want to do?
Yes.
Because that gives the power and the choice back to the person who has maybe been at a deficit for a long time. Personally, when I was in the thick of my substance use and my alcohol use, I didn't want anybody to help me because I didn't know how they could. So I just kind of kept on for a long time.
Right.
Because I didn't know how to ask for help, because I lived in a traumatic lived experience as a child where my parents couldn't help me as much as I needed. So how do I ask for help if I don't know how?
Right.
So you just kind of live in that sort of weirdness.
Yeah.
What's that last one?
Making your own choices.
Oh. And making a choice can be hard.
It can be hard, but it can also be very empowering. Very empowering.
And that's one of the key words that Rachel also has on this. What are those 3 things that you wrote? Because I think they're really great.
I have empowerment, boundaries, and know your rights.
Where does know your rights come in? What does that
I was just kind of thinking about that more of like from the standpoint of like maybe you are in treatment for substance use disorder, or you are going through, I don't even know, any kind of
legal
scenario, knowing your rights so, you don't get them, what's the word?
I don't know.
I
can't pick your brain.
You don't get violated.
Well, yeah, you don't get violated. And as well as we are here to offer resources for people. We might not know the answer when somebody feels like their rights have been violated or they're not sure what their next legal steps are, but we can give you resources. And that's advocacy. It's like the key component of Minnesota Recovery Connection. Well, Rachel, it's been a blast.
So fast.
So
it's
fast.
Already over?
Yes. Well, thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. Here with whom?
Rachel Lean from Minnesota Recovery Connection.
Awesome. Thank you all for listening. I hope you took away a tidbit. If you have any questions, please reach out to Minnesota Recovery Connection, and this will be live streamed on our website as well as on AM 950, the progressive radio station. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.